All right, hello everyone. Welcome to the Woods Run Stormwater Project meeting. This is a community meeting for the Riverview Park community, and we have a couple more people joining that I'm letting in right now. Awesome. Tonight we're going to be giving an update on the Phase 1 project recently completed, as well as the Phase 2 project, which is in design. Thanks, Anna. During this Zoom meeting, we're going to have folks mute so that we can hear Anna clearly as she presents. If you want to ask a question during the presentation, you can type it into the chat box on Zoom. That is the little cartoon bubble, like speech bubble at the bottom of your Zoom screen. And when the presentation ends, or pauses, if we want to pause for questions at any point, we'll respond to questions individually. I'm usually trying to start from the chat unless folks want to start speaking out loud, but we'll try and answer everyone's questions. And to do that as well, we'll allow verbal questions, so you can unmute your microphones at that point. And if you're on a cell phone, you can press *6 to unmute as well. So with that, we have about 15 participants, so I think maybe we'll just get started in, but if you want to, you can introduce yourself in the chat and maybe say if this is like your first community meeting with us about this project, if you've been to many other community meetings with us, or if you want to share anything about like where you live or how you use the park. With that, I'll turn it over to Anna to take care of the presentation.
Thanks, Elaine. Good evening, everybody. My name is Anna Bennett. I'm with the Pittsburgh Water and Sewer Authority and the project manager for the Woods Run project. So tonight we are excited to be with you guys. I know it's virtual, but still it's been a long time since we've met with the Riverview Park in regard to the Woods Run stormwater project that's been going on. So today we'll provide a stormwater program overview. So just some background on why PWC is involved, what our role with stormwater is within the city of Pittsburgh, and then get into the project overview, the history of this project, provide some updates for Phase 1 and Phase 2, and I'll get into that a little later, kind of showing what we are calling Phase 1 and Phase 2, if we have any new people in attendance today. And after that, we'll open it to a more traditional question and answer. So for stormwater overview, the city of Pittsburgh and really this entire region has a stormwater problem. Our city is an old city that was, we started embarking on this journey of putting in sewers in the 19th century. So a lot of our sewers are pretty old. Over 100 years ago, they were installed, and they were installed for a different time. They were installed for a time when there were less people living within the city, when there was more green space, less impervious surfaces, which are hard surfaces such as roads, houses, parking lots. So there are more opportunities to absorb the stormwater, the rainwater that fell, and infiltrate that back into the ground. So as you can imagine, our sewers that were sized back then were sized for a different era. So the issue today is that we have too much stormwater. When it rains, we're seeing a change in the type of storm events we're getting. We used to get these long and steady rainfalls. However, now we're seeing that is more of a more heavy, like thunderstorm-like systems that are really short in duration. So we're getting a lot of water in a very short amount of time. And given that our sewers were put in the ground over 100 years ago, our sewer system, there's one pipe that conveys all of the sewage, your sanitary flows from your house, and the stormwater. So all the stormwater you see running off roads and roofs, that's getting into the catch basins, that's going to the same pipe. And whenever it rains, over 1/10 of an inch, we start to see discharge into our rivers. So you can imagine there's a lot of pollution entering our streams. So in response to that, PWC is stepping up historically, PWSA has been responsible for the conveyance of sewage. So really, we've been interested in what enters our sewer system. So in terms of stormwater, what that means is we were responsible for stormwater once it entered the catch basins and got into our pipes, but not for the stormwater above land. That was the responsibility of the city of Pittsburgh. However, in 2019, PWSA became a stormwater authority as well, just because, as you can imagine, there's a lot of confusion when it rains, who's responsible for what. So PWSA and the city we've been working out a memorandum of understanding, trying to clearly delineate who's responsible for what when it comes to stormwater. So as a result, in addition to just being worried about sewage backups and combined sewer overflows into our rivers and streams, we're also taking on flood mitigation. And so with that, I just want to kind of go into the Woods Run Riverview Park project. So you can see on the screen, there is a timeline, and it goes back to 2017, which is really when this project kicked off. In 2017, as I mentioned, PWSA was mainly only tasked with looking at reducing sewage backups and reducing combined sewer overflows. So in 2017, after going through a planning process, we identified Riverview Park as an opportunity to control stormwater, detain it, and slowly release it back into the sewer system so that we could reduce the combined sewer overflows. And you'll see reference to 027 sewer shed. That just means that Riverview Park is located within an area that all of the stormwater and sanitary flows, if there is an overflow, it discharges along the Ohio River. So the O is for Ohio, and it's a 27th outfall from the river. So in 2017, we embarked on this journey looking at ways we can reduce combined sewer overflows within Riverview Park by detaining stormwater. We held a series of community meetings and site walks to better understand what issues there were within the park and better hear from residents. So from 2017 to 2019 really was that first design phase. And in 2019, we decided to split the project into two phases. Phase one consisted of the upstream components, and that went into construction that September of 2019. And the second part that we're calling phase two was broken out of that original project because they dealt with stream restoration. And with any stream restoration project, there are permits that are needed to be obtained from the State Department of Environmental Protection, and that would have delayed the entire project schedule. So in order to advance some components, we decided to split that up into two projects. So as I mentioned, in September of 2019, phase one went into construction, and that was completed that winter in December timeframe. Along the same timeline, in that September of 2019, Alcosan released their clean water plan. And within that plan, they had laid out what their plan was to reduce combined sewer overflows for the entire region. Given that PWSA's goals and Alcosan's goals overlap, we decided it was best to put phase two of the Woods Run Riverview project on hold, just until we could reassess the clean water plan, see what they would be accomplishing with putting in tunnels and how that would impact our project. That was a way for us to kind of take a step back and make sure that we weren't duplicating any efforts and investing in money that our ratepayers were putting that wouldn't really help out with the combined sewer overflow reductions. So that next year, in February 2020, after recently completing the phase one projects, we noticed that there was a landslide above the recently constructed bioretention system, and that is located around the Horseshoe Bend. We have some images later to kind of walk you through this. So once we realized that there was a landslide that had occurred immediately above and had clogged our system, we launched an investigation to determine what the root cause of that landslide was. And from there, we moved into design and construction of that landslide. so that landslide, hillside stabilization, and bioretention mitigation was recently constructed and completed this past year. In October of 2020, the Pittsburgh Water and Sewer Authority met with Friends of Riverview Park and the city of Pittsburgh, and we had a conversation as to, there was a lot of work and design that went into planning the Riverview Park phase 1 and 2. So we had a discussion as to what we could do to revive phase 2 and bring that back and move it to completion. So PWSA did agree to move phase 2 forward. However, instead of focusing on combined sewer overflow reduction, it was going to be a flood mitigation project. And given that that project was at a 90% design phase previously, we decided to keep the same elements, just redesign the sizing of the detention. And we'll walk through that a little in more detail here. So to give an update as to where we are right now, in December of 2021, so this past December, we submitted the design package into the state for review for permitting purposes. And we've done that. So right now it's more of a waiting game until we receive permits to move forward. So I know it's been since 2017 that we've have embarked on this journey. So just to give an overview on what this project is, if anybody is new to this meeting. In 2017, we had a series of site walks and community meetings where we went out and took walks throughout the Riverview Park area. We mapped out the hydrology within the park, looking at the streams, how they work, looking at all the stormwater drainage area where the stormwater was running off from, if there was infrastructure and the condition it was in. In addition to that, we were noting on any erosion that was going on within the park and areas that could be improved. So these are some pictures. Mainly for this project, we are focusing on the northern part of Riverview Park. So starting from the ball fields to Perrysville, and really that main northern part. So as we walked through the park, we saw that there was old abandoned infrastructure that wasn't in place, or is in place, but maybe not working. And also there's a lot of runoff and stormwater runoff that there is a Belgian brick conveyance system along the edge of a lot of trails within the park, but in most cases it's no longer functioning, and there's stormwater kind of eroding the trails and making its own pathway to get down to the streams. So along with the site assessment, we put some flow monitors within the bottom culvert at the intersection of Maredale Avenue and Riverview Drive. So you can see here pictures throughout from October 2017 through February 2018. So you can see how much this area moves in terms of where the water is going, the amount of sediment that's washing down from the park and entering the culvert and ultimately entering our sewer system. So this gave us a pretty good understanding as to the amount of water and sediment that's entering. And through some calculations, we estimated that roughly 15 dump trucks per year of gravel were being washed away from within the park and entering the sewer system. So that's a lot of sediment. And as you can see throughout, if you walk throughout Riverview Park, there's very little vegetation. We have a lot of mature trees, but not much ground cover. So without that ground cover, there's a lot of sediment just moving, especially during these heavy rain events. So as we were doing these site investigations, we had a series of community meetings, and in April of 2018, we presented several different alternatives and options on where and how we could manage the stormwater runoff coming from the roads and also from within the steep hillsides in the park. So again, when we were going through these, all the designs were really designed to reduce combined sewer overflow. So the goal was to capture the first 1.5 inches, detain it within the park, and then slowly release it back into the sewer system. So you can kind of see here all of the various alternate locations where we had come up with some concepts, although not all of them moved forward, and that was just because of trying to take a look at what projects met our design criteria. So later that year, we worked with the community to identify the projects that would be moving forward, and those are what are circled here. In orange, there's a number 1 next to it, and that is what we're calling phase 1. Those were the upstream improvements that move forward to construction and have already been completed. And that consisted of a bioretention along the horseshoe bend here. So there is some conveyance that ultimately leads to a bioretention. And then as you continue down the road, there is more, there's a long linear bioswale that then enters a bioretention, which is what we're calling Watson's Run. And there was some parking improvements there. Phase 2, which is what was put on hold, and what we've been redesigning recently, is circled in green, and that is looking at doing a stream restoration on Watson's Run, improving a wetland, and doing some forest vegetation and some stream improvements along Whistlehagen Trail, and also doing some stormwater improvements coming down from the soccer field down Meredale Avenue all the way down to the entrance and extending that stream. So phase 1, as I mentioned, this is on the right is a picture rendering of the horseshoe bend, and on the left is a rendering of the Watson's Run parking area and the bioretention. So these went into construction in September of 2019 and were completed in November of 2019. So if you go out there today, you can see them. However, in February of 2020, we realized we're notified that there was a landslide immediately above our bioretention. So you can see the silt sock here is like the beginning of our bioretention system that was recently constructed, and a landslide had happened just above it, which clogged our system. So the past 2 years, really, we've been working on a redesign to stabilize this hillside, restore that bioretention, and make sure it could function as we originally designed it to. So what that resulted in is what you see on the right here. We just completed this in December of this past year. We stabilized the hillside, added proper drainage. We realized that given the past 2018 and 2019 were historically wet years within the Pittsburgh area, and given that the Riverview Park has some soils that have had landslides in the past, it just made really good conditions for a landslide to reoccur in the area, especially given the wet years and the timing of the construction. So with that, we did do a restabilization effort and completed this project. And if you go out there now, you'll see we've planted trees to help stabilize and keep the soil in place. And we will be going back in the spring this year to plant the bioretention facility itself. When we wrapped this project up this past year, it was cold and we didn't want to put plants in the ground yet. So with that, we're here today to talk about phase 2 and what that looks like moving forward. As I mentioned, phase 2, it really focuses on the stream work and some bioretention coming down from Meredale Avenue and focusing on the entrance there and some trail work within the park. So this project, although it was designed to capture the first 1.5 inches, that goal has shifted. We've done our best to maintain the same elements, but we've had to reconfigure some of the basins just to make sure that previously we were designing to capture the first 1.5 inches, and now we're designing to capture stormwater from the hillsides and roads to mitigate localized flooding within the area. So as we go through the design elements, you'll see most of them will be familiar. They're the designs that we worked in 2017 and 18 with you guys and presented, although the sizes may have shifted. So the first one we'll talk about is, let me just go back here, is this little wetland area that we'll focus on. So this is the Whistlehagen Trail. It's for this one, when we were doing our initial site investigations, we noticed that this was always like a wetland area, and you could see people would kind of walk around and make their own path just because of how wet it is. So for this particular area, we are looking to restore the compacted earth trail about 200 feet and put in a pedestrian footbridge. And along that, we will be doing some stream restoration within that little stream branch that goes there and putting in some boulder cascades. So that is within the Whistlehagen Trail. Moving down, so we were just to our right, moving down the Whistlehagen Trail and jumping onto the old Whistlehagen Trail, which is a larger gravelly path that if you park at the bottom entrance and walk up the gravel trail, you'll kind of see it. You're walking along this stream. Currently, there is, you can see the old Whistlehagen Trail, the gravel, it's eroding a lot. And this along the right edge of the trail, there used to be, or there is a WPA brick conveyance structure, which has been clogged with debris and has shifted a lot. So instead of following that, the stormwater runoff from the hillsides is kind of just making its own path and cutting across the trail. So what we intend to do here is to narrow this trail from 10 feet wide to 8 feet. And what that's going to do is allow us to create a little more of a floodplain for the stream itself and to be able to give it the space it needs for large storms when we have high flows. So along with that, we'll be doing stream restoration within the main stream itself and some of the tributary streams. And we will be putting in a footbridge over where one of like the stream branches crosses and tries to enter the stream here, and doing some stream or some trail restoration going up. That's about another 250 feet of trail that will be restored as part of this project. And during those initial walks that we had with the community, one thing that was noted was that the community would like to see kind of an area to sit and take a look at the stream and enjoy the park. So there will be a park bench being installed right past that footbridge entrance. So moving on to Watson's Run, just to help orientate yourself, this is Maredale Avenue and this is Riverview. So if we're going up this stream here, this is what we're calling Watson's Run. We will be doing some stream restoration within Watson's Run itself, but we will also be having deer fencing going up along the sides. And this is really to provide a riparian buffer we'll be putting in some plantings to help encourage plant growth and give them a chance to survive before they're eaten. So this right here will be stream restoration with some plantings on both sides of the stream. And then moving back up Maredale Avenue, to help orientate yourself, above here, the picture on the left is the most northern part. So there is a soccer field up here, and then right below the soccer field is existing detention basin. And we're going to retrofit that to try to take in more water and convey that water. We're going to be putting in a rock swale to help convey that overflow down to another basin that we're proposing, which will be taking in stormwater runoff from the catch basins off of the road. And also we will be having a swale to capture some of the stormwater that's running off of that steep hillside coming from the school right now. So that will be a series of detention basins. So we'll go from the existing one to a new one that we're proposing here. And this second one will then be draining into a third lower one, which again will be pulling in more water from the road and providing a swale so that any runoff from the hillside can follow that path into the detention basin, be detained, and then slowly released into the existing stream that runs along Snowflake Trail. And for Snowflake, along that stream, we will be doing some stream restoration to ensure that it is able to take on that flow that we'll be releasing in, putting in some boulder rocks to help stabilize it and reduce any erosion going on. So from there, that brings us to the Meredale Avenue entrance. Within the Meredale Avenue entrance, the biggest change from phase one is that we will in order to capture the 1.5 inches to reduce combined sewer overflows, we were planning on putting underground detention within the parking lot. That has now been removed. We will be reconfiguring the parking lot and redesigning it so that we have more defined parking spots. However, for the flood mitigation goals that we have now, putting in storage below that wasn't necessary. So we will be putting in a new pipe to kind of convey the flows from the stream and get that into the larger existing creek that's here. We will be doing some stream restoration coming down from Watson's Run and tying that into this location here. And one thing that we're doing currently, once the flow gets to this location, it then enters our combined sewer system. What we're proposing to do is to take that flow and divert it across the street into the Meredale Avenue. Right now, there's a lawn that goes down Meredale Avenue, and we will be sending stormwater flows during rain events through kind of what we're going to be mimicking to be a stream. And we'll be having some boulder tows and weirs to help slow down and detain stormwater as it moves down. Once it reaches the end of this, we will be taking that flow and introducing it back into the sewer system. So at the end of the day, we'll be having a mini stream extension, although it'll only be during wet weather that you'll see stormwater running through it. On normal days, the base flow from the stream will be entering the combined sewer system. And along that, we will be putting in new sidewalk along the stream extension and also from the parking lot kind of to that bridge ending. And we've been working with the City Department of Public Works and of Mobility, to make sure that we have ADA compliant ramps for the parking lot entrance and also to help park users cross the street here. So in terms of next steps, as I mentioned, phase one has been completed along with the landslide remediation. We will be going back this spring to replant the bioretention itself. But then for phase two, we submitted the permits in December of this past year. So currently we're just waiting to hear back. We've been told that process can take 12 to 18 months. So hopefully it doesn't take that long, but we're anticipating getting approval for the permit at the end of this year. Once we get permit approvals, we will be going out to bid and hoping to start construction in the spring of 2023 and completing construction in 2024. And so with that, those are the updates we had. I really want to kind of leave the majority of today's presentation to answer any questions you may have, and we can kind of talk through any design or general questions you guys may have. So with that, I'll check the chat to see what we have in there. I guess at this point, I'm not seeing any questions within the chat, but if you have questions or comments, feel free to unmute yourself and speak up.
All right, I'll go ahead and start, or maybe finish, who knows? With the trail, the old barn, with the trail, what happens to that as it heads up into it further uphill going towards the old Whistlehagen Nature Center ruins?
So this is the old Whistlehagen Trail. We're seeing it's gravelly. At the stream crossing, it'll be a footpath. And from previous conversations, we have noted that we're going to keep the lower trail. So there's a Y. So the lower trail will be restored and continued down. And the top, so if you can imagine this trail continuing straight here, where these lines are, that will be abandoned as part of this project. So for those park users, you can imagine this trail continues and then there's like a steep drop off right here. You can get to that point using this lower dirt trail as well. So that was something that early on, I believe in 2018, maybe we had a site walk and decided on abandoning that top trail right now, which is that gravelly one, and just restoring and improving this bottom trail to get access. And Mark, I see you're talking, but you're on mute.
As you go up, you'll still be able to get up to the old Whistlehagen ruins. It's just that you'll be walking on a trail that's about 15 feet below what the old road used to be up to there. And then will trees be planted along that, or what will happen as part of that restoration of how do you stabilize that old trail?
We do have a detail to stabilize. I believe we're just doing grading. No tree plantings within this area was planned. In terms of tree plantings or vegetation plantings, we are putting in plantings along the stream to create a buffer. And then let me try to go back to a larger view. Where that stream crosses, we will have an area within that will be fenced in so that we can do some tree plantings and close that off to give it time to establish and mature, just from the number of deers within the park. And also the Watson's Run, we will be doing tree plantings as well and fence those off for a temporary time.
Yeah, do you want to talk a little bit about the deer exclosures to keep the deer out mainly so that they don't devour everything that you plant?
Yeah, so early on, as we did a lot of like the site investigations, walking throughout the park, we noticed that there was very little vegetation throughout the entire park. And one thing that we did notice was the high number of deer that were throughout the entire park browsing. So as part of this project, you know, when we talk about green infrastructure, we're really trying to mimic nature, and the best examples oftentimes are old forests, such as Riverview Park, except for when you look at a healthy forest, there's a lot of canopy cover trees, and below that there's a lot of vegetation, so ground covering. And one thing that is missing within Riverview Park is that ground cover. And that's really because of the high number of deer that are within the park, grazing and eating everything. So as part of this project, to kind of take a look at how vegetation can help stop or reduce the amount of stormwater runoff within these steep hillsides, we will be having areas where we will be putting up fences to try to keep deer out and re-vegetate the ground cover. So those areas will be along Watson's Run. So there is a trail that goes through there. So we're going to be keeping the trail on either side, or the fence on either side of the trail, to make sure, walkers, bikers can still come in and out without, having to go through a fence. So that'll be Watson's Run. And then the other location, let me just get back, is above Whistlehagen Trail. I believe this is Wildflower Trail that goes up. So we will be closing off a small portion there to add some vegetation alongside of the stream.
And that is smaller than what was originally proposed, if I remember from the last iteration of this, is that it was, this is maybe 2/3 the size of that, at least area. Is that area B? I can't read it, but that the one that you've got.
36. Yep. Yeah. So I believe the original project was to close off about, I wouldn't be able to speak to the number. I want to say it was over an acre. So that has been reduced, just so we can kind of control the area that we will be, having to inspect and maintain to ensure that deer aren't in, and be able to fix the fence if, branches come down on them.
And how will you guys do that? Like, is that going to be all done by PAW? I mean, are you going to be out looking for deer? I guess, have you guys figured out how that's going to work yet?
No, so PWSA does have, as part of our green infrastructure program, we do have an inspector that goes out. However, just given not knowing how often we'll have to be out at here monitoring this, we will be relying on park users to notify us. We do have an inspector who will be going out. We just can't be out there every day. And we are planning on having conversations with DPW to see if, we can have some type of partnership and have them call us if they're aware of any gaps within the fence.
And then will you guys have a contractor or somebody that comes out and gets the deer out? Because if it goes down, they're going to be in pretty quickly. It's my
Yep. Yeah.
Yes.
So, and then as part of that, we will have that'll be part of PWSA's maintenance contract. We don't have a specific person right now, but that will be something that PWSA will be responsible for.
Okay. And I've got more questions, but if anybody else has questions, I don't want to.
Anna?
Yes.
Yeah, this is Carol McCullough. I'm having a hard time really picturing all of this, although I do walk in the Whistlehagen area frequently. Is there another community walkthrough being planned?
We are not planning a walkthrough right now, but if that is something of interest, we can arrange that probably sometime this summer when there's warmer weather. So if that is of interest, we can definitely set something up.
Okay, thank you.
And Carol, if you don't mind putting in the chat or messaging Elaine or myself and letting us know, of the interest, we could always, follow up with you after.
Okay.
And I'll ask another question about the stream extension. That will flow 24/7, just like the stream does now, correct?
No,
the stream is actually moving under the roadway and moving downstream. That's just not storm overflow, or did I misunderstand what you were saying?
Yep. No, so the stream right now, yes, that does run 24/7. However, for this, given that our goals have changed, we will be only directing stormwater. So when it rains, we'll be capturing and taking that stormwater through this system. So on a dry day when there is no rain, this will not have water running through it. It'll only be during wet weather. And that is tentative right now. We've been having discussions since we've submitted the package to the DEP, and that was something that they've kind of requested in order for us to have water flowing 24/7 that falls under a different permitting process review, which would delay the project longer. So at this point, we're looking at only conveying stormwater flow. And
well, that was PWSA's choice on how to file for a permit, and that's totally new information to anybody sitting here, that you guys have made that decision and then filed for a permit that might be the wrong permit, because our understanding was the stream was going to be flowing all the time through there. Even in the discussions we had when you guys were trying to stop the project or weren't going to move forward with it, back at the start of the pandemic. And, that's not anything we've agreed to or supported at Friends of Riverview Park. So this is like, some seriously not good news, I think.
I'll have to follow up with you and double check on that. From my understanding, this is only a stormwater during wet weather events that we will be diverting that flow through.
That is not anything that was communicated by your boss or anybody that was on the calls that we were on to salvage this project. And that's not something we would have agreed to. And we asked you specifically, during those calls. Now, I know a bunch of those people have left the authority, but not to, that wasn't something that we were going to settle for. So this is kind of unfortunate that you're just presenting it now. And I think that you're going to have to figure out how to get a stream permit.
Okay. I will definitely follow up with you guys if that is kind of what was conveyed before. I'll have to follow up with you on, or everybody on that. I just can't answer that right now in terms of kind of what was promised, but I can say right now, the way it's designed is to only be sending stormwater flow. So like you mentioned,
Who made that decision?
I would have to look back to see that's kind of how it's been moving forward since I've taken over. But I'll recirculate, kind of get back with my higher ups and see, how we can modify this. If the interest is to make sure that is a flowing stream 24/7, we'll have to make that decision rather shortly here. As you know, we do have the permits in, and that was a question that the DP had asked us as well. So we'll make sure that we get back with you guys before we kind of answer them on how we're moving forward.
Let us know. We'll get, the same group that was meeting before. I just don't understand why you guys did this. And I thought you were on that call, as a matter of fact, that I can't remember the person that was there that was Dr. No and was going to kill the project that came from Cincinnati, and what was his name? Turner, and he's gone. Yeah. So he was there. He was Dr. No. We had to have several meetings with you guys, with the mayor's office, and trying to figure out why this stuff wasn't going to move forward at all. But when we came back and we agreed on all of this stuff, and there weren't going to be further cuts, and this is a cut.
I'll have to circle back with you.
It better be fast, because I don't want this to get delayed yet another year while PWSA does this stuff. This is just another way not to build it. And you guys tried to stop it. It didn't get stopped. We lost a year. We could have had you guys withdrew the permit that was filed, if I recall correctly. So, this is not this is a problem.
And that first permit was pulled just because, given the Alcosan Clean Water Plan that came out, it no longer was in our best interest to move forward with it, given that the tunnels that were going in were going to reduce compliance sewer overflows.
Right.
So
I just want to say that I'm trying to be as polite as I can with the timeline. And how we've been informed as the folks that pushed for the project initially and raised money for the project or helped raise money for it. How we've been treated through this is we always find out at the back end after you guys make a decision, and that's got to stop. If we're working together on this, we need to know when you make a significant decision like this. We could have told you, you know, what does it take to keep that in? And, you know, for you to switch it to say, no, it's just going to be dry, that it wasn't the whole, you know, that's like the feature of this project that everybody's going to see. It's now just going to be looking, you know, anyway,
Okay,
we need to have
understood.
that
No, and-
conversation quickly.
Yep, I understand, and I do apologize. That's just how it's been conveyed from when I took this over, but I will make sure we talk to you guys, well, internally and to you guys before any more correspondence goes into the DP.
And maybe, you know, State Representative Kincaid's office, I thought I saw that she was on her route, but maybe she had to jump off.
Yeah, I believe I saw Bridget Barrett on earlier.
Yeah, so maybe they can help as well. I'll reach out to them as well, but I'm going to send an email out to try to get this meeting set up.
So with that, are there any other questions or comments that we could can talk? You know, we'll be reconnecting with Mark and others in terms of the stream extension. But other than that, if there are any questions, please let us know.
I think I see one from the chat. I hadn't read it fully yet, but Tom Wilson said, I'm fascinated by the hydrology. I see on these maps that the streams are numbered 101, 102, etc. Would there be a way I could get a map that shows all those streams? And also interested in the walkthrough. So we got a few people interested in the walkthrough in the chat, which is good to see.
And then in terms of the numbering of the streams, that was something that we did early on. I can try to dig that study up, and we do have a project webpage. If you can see my screen still, it's pgh2o.com/woods-run-2. We can definitely, I'll try to locate those maps and put it up on our webpage so that it's accessible to everybody. And we can follow up with attendees once that's on there. Great. And just looking through the chat, yeah, it looks like there is some interest in doing a walkthrough. So we definitely arranged that for this spring, summertime.
Is it possible, is there a website or something that people can, they wanted to like zoom in and look at different parts of this? Is it on the project website yet? Or is it something you can email out to the Parks Conservancy or Friends of Riverview Park, so that if folks want to see it, they've got a way, someone that they can get in touch with or can get copies of this presentation?
The design drawing set is not up on our website yet. We typically don't post those. So if anybody is interested, if you could email me, and I don't have an email on this, I'll send it in the chat. I can talk to my boss to make sure it's okay to share first.
Well, I guess I was asking, can you share the, I'm sorry, I turned my video off. Can you share this presentation at a minimum?
Yes. Yep. Yeah. So the presentation will be up on the webpage along with a recording of tonight's meeting.
Okay, and are you able to, or is Elaine able to put the address for anybody that's new, where they can go to get a copy of this in the chat? Thanks.
Yeah, it's not posted yet, but I can probably post the PDF of the presentation right after this meeting, and then the recording will probably be up by tomorrow. I'm also taking notes during this meeting. Those usually take me a little bit longer to process, but hopefully have those done within the next week, and post those as well. So yeah, those will go on the project webpage under the additional information section. Oh, and Anna and my contact information is also on that webpage. Any other questions from anyone? Sounds like we're doing kind of quick. We're at least like 30 minutes ahead of schedule. So that's always nice when we can give back time to you all in the evening. As I said, I'll post the presentation, I'll post the recording, I'll be sending out a follow-up email once those are up, and then we'll also and I will look into posting that stream map that's about the hydrology that was interested, and then also let people know when that is up. And we have the follow-up with Mark that I have noted down, as well as I have an action item noted down to work on planning a walkthrough sometime in the spring or summer when we can get outside there with you all. I think we're good, right, Anna? Should we close up for the night?
I think
Let's call.
if you guys have any other questions after the project, feel free to send us an email. Like Elaine mentioned, you can find our contacts on the website and get a hold of us that way.
Alrighty, thank you all so much.
Thanks all.
Thank you.
Thank you.